Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. That would be 2. Anyway. Boom. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1. What the hell? 2. All right. What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday to you. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get into it because I do have somewhere to be right after this show. So, now this is one of the great things because we often talk about this and we often see this in police reports and things of that nature because of things like stock language. And we've also been seeing police officers around the country literally planting evidence on people, or they're making up lies. Just like, again, use the instance of the Blake Simmons. If you watch the video, I pointed out immediately when his supervisor showed up, he began to lie. He made up a story that had nothing to do with his stop or why he was doing any of the stuff he was doing. Now, police officers lie about, plant, and fabricate evidence in prosecutions for strategic and systematic reasons tied to power, control, and conviction-driven incentives. Now, I'm going to break it down for you so you can be clear on it. Now, understand what I'm just saying, because, again, police officers are the partners of the prosecution. Police officers are the partners of the judges, which is why you don't see them being, adjudicated very often. And even whenever you're looking at the context of DV, police officers lead the statistics. Now, and I told someone, I want you to imagine this. They're number one in DV. What about the ones that aren't reported by other police officers? Because piranha don't eat piranha. And again, when we're talking about tied to power, police only have arresting power or policing power when it's given to them. Now, a lot of times what happened is they are looking for control, which is why whenever we're talking about, oh, this guy became a police officer after high school, used to get beat up all the time, or ain't nobody like him, or she was the nerdy girl, no one even cared about her. These are the things that we talk about because they were looking for some sense of control, which is often why they're taught to be cowards, because they are taught that everyone is out to hurt them and they need to stay in control. Because I was told one day, a man or woman will destroy their own world when they realize how little control they actually have, which is why you have the prayer of surrender. You control the things you can control. And even in this it's understanding the concepts. And I use concepts because that's what it is. These are ideas. Because the actualities are driven in the law. The law tells you who's in control. The law tells you what they can and can't do because the law limits government and police officer control. It limits government and police officer power. Now, the reason why they're able to lie, because there's even Supreme Court cases that said they are, because they don't have a duty unless you're forcing them to have it. Again, something I'm going to leave there for you. We're going to pick it up later. Now, why do police lie about evidence? The main thing is to secure a conviction. Officers know jury often give them more credibility than defendants. Why? Because they look at the uniform, and we've been programmed to believe that police officers are good people, which is why I'm doing the Bad Officer series. I'm actually doing it more frequently now, because I want you to understand people wear uniforms can be bad too. And also to break that stereotype, go ahead and dig into the mind, because when you start seeing 1, 2, 4, 5, 100, 200, when you start getting into the numbers of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, you're going to keep going through your timeline and be like, God dang, all these cops are bad. And yes, I'm putting their offenses on their pictures, because that's exactly what they do to us. Now, they don't have any shielding. Why? Why they don't have shielding? Is because they are public figures. I'll let you get it. Again, dropping something, I'm going to pick it up later. So, but again, they're relying on our innate programming that they have more credibility than the defendants, which is why we put their character on trial. When they lie about the existence or strength of evidence, we often found your fingerprints. Now, I got a little series that I'm going to do on how to get away with murder legally, because again, they're not taught how to solve crimes. These aren't intelligent people. So when they're using manipulation tactics such as we found your fingerprints, that's great. Was it a 20-point match, which is required by science to narrow it down to one or two people? Or was it a 9-point match that you can't timestamp? Always understand that there is a opening. There's a plethora of differences. Because a 9-point match, I can match with other people on the planet within reason. Just to give you an idea. A 9-point match is 1 in 300. There'll be more people in the courthouse that you match with that 9-point match than you do a 20-point match that requires, because it sorts it down to billions. Which is why they use the 9, because that 20 is pesky. But again, these are the things they use to pressure you into confessions or admitting guilt into a plea bargain. These are the things, again, the manipulation tactics that are done to secure that conviction. Because again, they're playing on the mentality of they are good because they're wearing a uniform. Here's the next one, because I actually just did post a video about this. To cover unconstitutional actions. If a stop, search, or seizure is illegal, officers sometimes lie to clean it up. The record, so the evidence does not get suppressed. Because what did I just talk about? Miranda. The Miranda warnings. They have to be done at a certain time. Even questioning. The questioning is designed to coerce you, which is why they don't mind asking manipulative questions to get you to incriminate yourself. Look at the first 48. They use every manipulation tactic and nothing lawful to allow you to incriminate yourself, because they aren't taught to solve a crime. They want you to tell them you did it. Because even the Central Park 5, they took a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, and 16-year-old and lied to them for 17 hours. And then when they got the DNA, they kept these boys in prison almost, I think one stayed there 10 years, when they knew they had the wrong people. And these are the things that they use to justify it, because again, they're upset about the movie because it showed them being monsters. And I'm going to even get into that one too, because one of my favorite shows, one of my favorite actors, is Kathy Bates. She's in a series called Matlock. And it was, I've probably seen it maybe 4 or 5 times, because it's maybe like 20 episodes. But I actually went back and started watching it again a couple of days ago. I'm on episode 7. This is the perfect example of what I talk about when you're watching her go through the steps to get to where she's trying to get to. She's taught that, but this is, let me see how I can say this. When I talk about becoming that monster, she was a sweet old lady who lost her daughter. She wanted to get answers. Now, she was still that sweet old lady with the first case. She was still that sweet old lady with the second case. But as she went more deeper and deeper into it, she learned she had to be something else. And in being something else, that started to destroy her family dynamics. It leaked off into her grandson. It started messing with her marriage. Her past started getting to her. It started messing with her health. she constantly broke down. And this episode 7. There's 12 more episodes to go. But as she's becoming more and more that monster is destroying everything around her. And this is why I tell you guys, understand, this is not for the weak. This is not for the simple. This is not for something like, oh, I'm ready to do it. Everybody's ready until it's time. Everybody's strong when there's no resistance. And there's no shame in getting outside help. And that's why I tell you, I don't mind being the monster because I've made friends with my monsters. But these are the things that most people don't understand because it seems straightforward. It seems like what is written on paper. But again, if everything in that system is corrupt and evil, in order to beat that evil, you have to become just as evil. And I tell people, that's the context of it. You can't go into something angelic and remain angelic. Because every move that you're going to need to move is not going to be perceived or accepted as that. And this is why I talk about the lives of the police officers, the character of the police officers, the things that they're doing, as well as going after the prosecution, going after judges, going after their basic autonomy to make them do and get to the point to where they're at. Because even to justify arrest, they don't have probable cause at all times. Officers may backfill the record with lies or create a post hoc justification. What you want to do is understand that's what the body camera's for. And if it's a lack of body camera, then you go after them. Because just to give you a great example, I had a young lady that I was helping with a lawsuit. And I told her, I said, you're going to have to add this lady to this lawsuit. And she goes, no, I'm not going to do that. She's a sweet old lady. She was sweet to me and blah, blah. I said, okay, it's on you. I'm just telling you, you need to add this lady to the lawsuit. 10 days later, she gets a letter. That sweet old lady that helped her and all this up was now suing her. And she was like, can you help me with this? I absolutely can. Here's the price for that. And she was like, but you weren't going to charge me to add her to the lawsuit. Exactly. This is a completely different situation. And most people don't understand that. When you're being guided through, I've seen this 1,000 times. I can tell you where they're going with it. And I can help patch up holes. But if you choose not to follow because you think it's going to be written or going to be done like it's written on paper, you are sadly mistaken. Because this is what the real is. Putting together a strategy for court, exposing their lies and how they're doing it. Because even the why is important of why they're doing it. Which is why that's what I start off with. Because even why do they plant evidence? Why did the dude in Virginia plant evidence in more than 400 people's cars? Why did the task force in Baltimore plant evidence in thousands of cars? Why did the young man in South Georgia plant evidence in more than 200 known people's cars? Why are the troopers in Tennessee arresting people without actual DUIs? Why are they doing these things? And one of the reasons, see if they can make a case stick, which is also why, as soon as they arrest you, they go and bring up your arrest record. They talk about how many times you done been late to class. They talked about how you got into an argument with your mother. They talk about anything that can dirty you up, but they expect for them to stay clean because they are expected to be that way. And this is why I tell you, challenge everything and attack everybody. Because the greatest defense is an offense. And this is one of the great parts about it. And even when they're doing things to make a case stick, because the prosecution had solid evidence, an officer might add weapons, drugs, or contraband to guarantee charges. Give you an example. Man got stopped for expired registrations. He showed the officer the actual registration card of a company van. The officer asked him to get out. When he gets out, the officer asks, could he search the van? He tells him no. Officer said, oh, you're being aggressive and dismissive. Why you acting so furtive? You had a bunch of furtive movement. Again, like, he's like, what are you talking about? And you need to stop resisting. Because again, these are things that they're using as buzzwords. So, well, I'm gonna put you in the car. I'm gonna detain you in the back of my cruiser so you can actually sit down while I go ahead and do an inspection, which he did not have grounds for. And then he also violated because there were no exigent circumstances. He goes into this man's van or work truck and finds a gun. He then charges him with a gun. He also used a bunch of other language, again, stock language, that did not match. So when we asked for the dash cam, there was no dash cam, there was no body cam. Oh, okay. So now we say, okay, since there's nothing to support that, let's bring up some old cases. The second we brought up them old cases where he had complaints about planting evidence, not being truthful in the police reports. Because remember, they can't tell the truth because they got to use stock language. All of a sudden, the case just magically disappeared. Oh no, you're not on the docket anymore. Well, we need that in writing, because he was charged with a gun. We need that. Well, we can't give you. Oh well, yeah, you do, because the last thing that was filed, and what forced their hand was he kept every document that not only that he filed, but that was filed against him. So now they got to produce that record. And when they did so, they did it reluctantly. I want to say it took like 3 days. But at the end of the day, he made them accountable. Why? Because he showed that there was a violation and inconsistency with the character of this police officer. Because again, when they're lying to make cases stick, you have to fight back. Now, even this is one of the ones that I actually use, because you heard me speak about my stop. I didn't use retaliatory, but I did use targeted. Now, the reason why I use targeted is because here in Texas, I literally, when I found out I had the warrant or whatever, I literally went and started studying the body camera, the type of cameras, the cars, all of it. So I understand in certain aspects of it. Because I told him, I said, okay, due to the recording guidelines, if they have the infraction, that means I was targeted. If they don't have it, it's just to stop. Y'all don't have evidence of it. So as soon as the video comes on, I said, should I hand you this dismissal? He goes, why? I said, because I was targeted. Because her body camera came on, I want to say at least a minute and a half before she even got close enough to stop me. Just let that sink in. Because it comes on 30 seconds prior to. So in order for there to be the infraction, because if it came on 30 seconds prior to, she wouldn't have been able to see the infraction. Which actually the video further exonerated me, because she said I changed excuse me. I changed lanes without signaling. Her video showed otherwise. Hence, targeting. Now, that is something where they create excuse me. Shouldn't ate them chips. Targeting can involve planting evidence to punish individuals the officer personally dislike or consider troublemakers. I'm going to say that one more time. They're planting evidence to punish individuals that the officer does not like or considers a troublemaker. I will be considered a troublemaker because of what I do and what I teach. But that's cool. I don't mind that. Because again, I have one eye. I'm coming to get mine. I'm coming to take your eye. So I don't mind that. But again, this is part of the targeting issue. And this is one of the reasons why I understood I was targeted, and even listening to the context of it. The retaliatory is generally something where they'll just completely make up something that can't be proven at any point in life. So just going on with that. Anyway, here's the next one. This is a biggie. To protect informants, officers sometimes frame one suspect to protect a more valuable source or criminal informant. Now, they actually changed the verbiage of the word informant because the informant sticks out. They actually will use, in my case, they use the word stylist. I forgot what Dion's actually last name is, but anyway, they were like Dion, blah, 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 stylist. That means a stylist is a pointer. He was the informant. And the craziest part about this is whenever, and that's actually a great point, Diesel. The whole point is even when you're doing certain things where you're thinking it's someone that's outside your purview, 99.9% of the time, it's someone close to you. Now, in Dion's case, he wasn't close to me. He was close to my brother, which is why I cut my brother off. Because no matter what we said, no matter what we showed him, he didn't believe it. I was working with a young lady. It was her sister who turned her in. And the whole point was, her sister was the one doing everything, and she lied on her. So she had to fight a case that she had no idea what was going on, and her sister was the one that was framing her. Have another young man. He actually got sentenced. And hey, dude, it's somebody close to you. It's either your best friend or your sister. Like, it's somebody close to you. And he just wouldn't believe it. Then when he gets paperwork, it's his best friend. He thinking his best friend done went to prison because that was the story that was told to him. Come to find out, his best friend is living in another city. Because, again, a lot of times they're not going to try to use someone to manipulate or fool you, but they're going to get someone that you will speak to. So always understand that, because even in those cases, the manipulation is astronomical. Notice I haven't talked one bit about them doing anything lawful. Just notice that. Here's my favorite one, because I actually wanted to talk about this because of Ice-T. Report padding. Now, this is fun because, again, if I was Ice-T, I'd sue the shit out this officer, and I mean the way I just said that, because Ice-T was pulled over in front of the DMV. He was in a vehicle that he needed plates for. He was literally with all the documents. He had went there the day before to get his tag and get everything. Because, again, he's shooting Law and Order. He's shooting a couple other little series of movies. So he's not home. So now he's home for a little while. He started, hey, I need to drive my cars. I got to get all my cars registered. So he's driving them to the DMV. So he takes up to the DMV what he needs for them. They tell him, come back tomorrow. Cool. He goes back the next day. Cop stops him literally in front of the DMV. He tells the cop, he says, hey, here go all the paperwork for it, blah, blah, blah. This is what I got. I'm getting ready. I'm going there right now. He said, matter of fact, if you like, I can park it and I'll just walk over there because I'm looking at the front door. The cop doesn't like the way Ice-T is talking to him. His feelings are hurt. To the point to where I'm going to take this, I'm going to tow this, and I can do this, and I can do that. Well, the young man's supervisor comes up, and the supervisor says, hey, well, what happened? He tells him what happened. He lies in the midst of telling him what happened. Right? So now, he said, look, we can just let him walk up there. His car's not anywhere that it doesn't need to be. We're right there. Just give him a warning and just let him go handle it. He was like, no, because he was talking to me crazy. And the context of talking to him crazy was, why are you pulling me over? Oh, this is the reason? Here are the documentations to support why I'm in this area, in this conveyance, without the proper registration. And then the cop tells him, get out the car, and he's being aggressive. And again, Ice-T is like, dude, you ain't got to be all that. And so since you want to go there, I'm going to go there with you. That's what the cop didn't like. Because Ice-T never recognized his power and control. So his supervisor says, hey, how many tickets you going to give him? He said 4. He said 4? His supervisor, 4? That's a, what, for this? He said, man, he said, worst case, give him 2. He said, no, I'm going to give him 4. Now, what that is called report padding. That is the equivalent to a false report or fake field testing. And they even do this with exaggerated forensic findings to make a weak case look stronger. This is one of those where Ice-T could have not only been exonerated for, because again, he was going to get registration. The other 3 tickets were BS. And then the fact that he was in front of the DMV when he got the ticket was the overreach that goes into constituting a false report. Now, here's the next one. Challenge it and then sue the hell out of him. Get him out. Go get his post certification because again, a false report is a crime. So, and the next one, career advancement. We've seen this. We've seen this in probably the most horrible instances of these criminal violations. I mean the way I just said that. Because we talked about Christopher Donner, right? The Making of Frankenstein. And we talk about Teresa Evans. Most people have no idea who she is. She's the reason we have the conversation about Christopher Donner. Teresa Evans was Christopher Donner's training officer. She handcuffed a schizophrenic man in the middle of an episode and kicked him in the head. Christopher Donner did what he was supposed to do. He broke that shit up and he went and reported her. She got promoted. Christopher Donner got exiled. These are the things that they use for career advancement. They use high conviction rates, major busts, and closing cases, helping officers earn promotions, overtime, and recognition. This is also one of the things I call moving them out the way. Because again, I even talked about the police chief in Georgia. He was a chief. He could not read. How is he being certified? How was he continue to be certified? Oh, because he had someone else doing the test for him. So if you can't read, you don't know how to comprehend, and that means how do you execute law and remain a police officer? If your job is reading and writing and understanding and comprehension, at some point somebody's going to listen to the stuff that I'm saying and understand what it is that I'm talking about. Because this is really part of the systematic corruption that most people are tired of, but afraid to fight back against. Because they think police have control. They think police have power. They think that they can't do anything about it when the law is right here. Their limitations are directly in front of you. You are the most powerful person when you exercise that power. The problem is, in order to do that, you have to be willing to become a monster to defeat a monster. You have to be willing to accept the guidance to get there. And that's where most people stop at, because they think they'll get 1 or 2. And then, great example. Had a young lady I was attempting to help a couple of days ago. And she was telling me about all these motions that she filed and all these things that she did and how she had them tied up. And I asked her one question, because she was like, well, I didn't get the verdict that I wanted and we're just sitting in court. I said, yeah, great. That's wonderful. Do you know how to hold them accountable with everything you've done? Do you know how to execute it? She goes, well, I guess not, because the case ain't closed. I said, that's my point. You out here firing shots and have no idea even if you hit somebody. But you're just tying up the system and you have no idea how to close it. And here's the next part. You're too proud to ask for help. That is the separation. Because even if the system is corrupt, because it's not, it's working like it's supposed to. The problem is, it's not supposed to be challenges. You're the X factor. As long as you don't challenge it, the corruption or their normal isn't interrupted. Because in some department, fabrication becomes normalized. Everyone does it to maintain the thin blue line. Remember Officer Johnson? Oh, he does this all the time. He had openly admitted to Blake Simmons violating someone's rights all the time. Let that sink in. All the time. Because the department has normalized him doing that. So understand there are always an explanation for it. Underlying systematic pressures. Prosecutors and police often measure success by conviction numbers, not truth or justice. Courts frequently give the police the benefit of the doubt, incentivizing dishonesty. Because what did I tell you before? I literally just did a video on that. Police officers and prosecutors, they're given the benefit of the doubt. 1, by the juries. 2, by the court. Because they're all interconnected. That's why you challenge that. The thing that I'm doing when I'm teaching this is not to challenge anything other than what's being programmed here. What are you being programmed to think versus what is giving you the idea of justice versus the reality of justice? Ideas versus reality. Because knowing that they have the benefit of the doubt, knowing that they are incentivized to be dishonest, knowing that you have the ability to challenge it. Because again, I actually did something a few days ago, and I was speaking to a young man. He was like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. I said, there's something. I said, give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes, I sent him some paperwork. He goes, how do you know to do? I said, dude, I've been doing this since 2008. Like, there's always an avenue. But the problem is most people have no idea once they get there what to do. Or even they want to talk too much, put too much emphasis on the wrong things. And these things weaken your case, and it also weakens your execution. Because even now, the weak accountability that we have for the prosecution and also police officers, because even when the lies are exposed, officers are rarely prosecuted. And this is why I'm preaching now, go after their post-certifications. For nothing else purely than making them worthless. If you don't get their post-certifications, guess what? If there is a proper defense that's set up for you, that Jiggly information comes up. The prosecutor is now putting a known liar on the stand. They're putting someone on the stand that's known. So now we take out 2 birds with 1 stone. The police officer's word is trash, and that prosecutor is trash. Because the prosecutor is putting a known liar on the stand. This is the thing. Again, I never do things without a purpose. I don't say go after their post-certification just to get, because you're not going to get it every time. Because most of the post-certification officers that's there are former police officers. And most of them don't ever see a police officer doing something wrong. They have to do something egregious, just absolutely mind-boggling. Because just gave you an example, 2 guys that are on the bad cop list. One guy had child P, the PO. It's on there. He still has his post certifications. Why? Have another guy, he goes up today. He has actually been charged with 2nd-degree murder. It's not even in the news, so that lets you know it's actually serious. It's not in the news. There was no pressure to charge him with 2nd-degree murder. He still has his post certifications. He literally killed someone with an actual plan. he still has his post certifications. So understanding this is not, when you see bad officer, when you see all these other things, it's not to get them punished in that way. They're not going, piranha don't eat piranha. They're not going to punish themselves. But it makes them worthless for everybody behind you. Because now we take the system apart from the inside out. We go after the police officer first. Then they keep using the police officer, which you see they're going to do. You then go after the prosecutor. If the judge lets it go, you then go after the judge. Why? Because he becomes an active participant in a lie. And this is one of those things why I'm doing this, because I want you to make sure that you understand there's always a challenge, and this is the reason why they're being incentivized to do this. Because even the context of the prosecuting and police unions claim misconduct is the exception, not the rule, when in fact, there's $50 million per month being put into police unions to protect bad officers, while $7 million a year is being put into police mental health. I'm going to say that one more time because I know that went over a lot of people's head, and those that are police officers that are watching this, I want you to make sure, because I want you to understand, go listen to the, what is that? Where is the Blue Line? That's the podcast I'm talking about this. $50 million per month is going out by the police unions to make sure bad officers are continuing working. I just gave you two that are horrible. And then $7 million per year is putting out to police mental health. $600 million versus $7 million. Let that sink in. So what do they care about more? The bad officer or officers actually getting help? Because even when we talk about it's rare, we are talking about that is the rule. Because even defense attorneys see it's far more common, especially in drug, gun, and gang cases. Because look at Phoenix. The chief, Jerry Williams, she said, charge them and put a gang enhancement on it, as well as saying with police violence. The police force went along with it. You have hundreds of people that was charged with gang enhancement that weren't part of gangs. They were soccer moms. Dudes with regular jobs. But they got a gang enhancement with police violence. So now when they get stopped, again, for speeding, what pops up is that gang enhancement. What pops up is the police violence. These are the excuse barriers that allow Phoenix to be the most violent police force in the country. Well, I think they're number 2 now behind Chicago. But understanding that, these are the things that they do to make sure you don't just have free reign unless you are being proactive. Because see, even advocates push for body cams, independent investigation, and mandatory disclosure of officer misconduct history to cut down on lying and fabrication. The problem is, advocates push for it, not the other part of their team, which is the defense attorney. Because if they have a bar card, they're all on the same team. If you're not spending enough money so they can eat on their own, the state is feeding them. So if you're not doing one of those things, you need direction. You need to understand how to go through this. Because even going and taking away from this is understanding the application and to sing through the manipulation. Because just like Diesel said, police hate when you don't talk to them, when you have every right in the world to. And in fact, I've given you the correct way to invoke the Fifth. Due to the Fifth Amendment, as well as the advice of counsel, I choose not to answer this or any further questions. And if a police officer continues, they now, if they go and take you down to fingerprint you, they've just committed kidnapping, they just gave up their qualified immunity, and they've just given you money to put in your pocket. because they need a warrant for your fingerprints. They need probable cause to arrest you and take you anywhere. And if absent any of that, and not talking to them is not something they can do that. Because there's this dumbass case called Floyd v. Royer, which means you don't have to participate in their investigation because you are not a cop. Because cops are the only ones that can't keep quiet. When they're asked, they must answer. They don't have a Fifth Amendment right as a police officer. So even going through this, hold on. I'm gonna do something a little different right now before I close out, because even going through this, I have a bunch of stuff I was gonna do, but even going through this, I want to go read a couple of these comments because I want to see something. Because like I said, Diesel had a great one, and then under statutory legislation, they can change definitions and meaning. For instance, in the statute, and shall mean 18-wheeler, and always break down the words. Here's the problem. Statutes must agree with federal statutes. The state statutes must agree with federal statutes. If not, they do not have the effect of law. Because what's supreme law of the land? Supreme Court rulings and federal statutes. So if they don't, I don't care what word they change, and it must have supported federal statutes to go behind it. And if not, that's one of the challenges that you have. As well as, how would you go about suing or a tort claim for false? See, dark matter, that's why you hit in the description, to contact me with the email, or you set up a consultation on Calendly for 30 minutes. Either way, I got you, because that's light work. But it also is not free. So be ready. And charge dismissal and arresting officer resign. That's often the easy, because most of them do that because they know at the least they can hide for a little while. So I got a couple of tricks for that now. Salute you for putting down for many moons. Absolutely, that's what I do. I've been doing this, and I don't plan on stopping. As a matter of fact, I plan on ramping this up a little bit, because even after I do what I got to do in a few minutes, I'm coming back. All right. Can you rent Fort Worth officer? Can you rent Fort Worth officer? An officer got fired and then forced to be rehired after a cop watcher known as for. That's a great one. The Carolina Fort Worth watcher. Again, that goes back to, for the most part, regular challenges. Because even with that, with the rehire, that's the beautiful part, because he thinks he's clean. But what happened is it froze his pension. So, and also the rehire actually shows, because they can't hire someone that has a record, which they do often, or that's not in the midst of current litigation. So even if they're rehiring him, his pension is frozen, so his pension is free. So a lot of times what they will do is resign instead of being fired. Because if they're fired, they have to go to a completely different department altogether. But if they resign, they can always come back. That's why you see them resign first, because they keep their pension on resignation. But again, that's also a benefit to you, because now you can do a little forensic auditing and go ahead and seize those assets when you win. But like I told you guys, I got a couple other places to be. I appreciate you guys for stopping in. I got more coming back today. Don't forget, hit the like. Don't forget, support the channel. Donation links are in there. Super chats up. And I'm out for right now.